Chapter 14, Part 2, The Children of Ibrahim. Joam and Wanyenyekevu walked off to discuss details while Jonathan and Elisha went over what to bring along with them. After their lengthy discussion, Joam and Wanyenyekevu joined the rest and gathered their belongings and personal items. They finally organized their things, placed them on the horses, and stood in front of the elevator. Mercy pushed the button, and the doors opened. "I'll hold your hands so you won't be afraid," said Grace to Wanyenyekevu. Jonathan looked at Joy and nervously said,
I just want to hold your hands.
"If that's all right with you." Blushing, Joy smiled, "Sure. I don't mind." Ibrahim walked up to Wanyenyekevu with tears in his eye and hugged him. "I never knew of a God until now. The very first time I have ever asked God for anything was a few weeks back, and I asked him to bring a man of God to come to take my children to give them a life with him. He has given me just that through you. Thank you." After the goodbyes, hugs, kisses, and crying, Ibrahim said, "Don't worry, I will do what Sabaoth asks of me and help defeat the enemy." Wanyenyekevu was confused by what Ibrahim said, but the elevator closed before he could ask him. Once outside, everyone got on a horse. "Where's my horse?" said Daniel. Wanyenyekevu said, "You'll ride with me, little man." Wanyenyekevu then turned to Jonathan. "I guess there is more than one reason why we have these extra horses. Now, we need to go to Caballo Lake." Pulling out one of his new toys, Jonathan said, "Caballo Lake is due north, however Tucson is west." Wanyenyekevu said, "I know, but I was told we need to go there first." Joam asked, "Told? By whom?" Wanyenyekevu said, "I will explain later." Jonathan shook his head. Why is everything always be explained later with this man? Wanyenyekevu and Joam led the group heading north, following in pairs with Mercy and Joy, then Elijah and Grace, and Jonathan and Elisha, who carried the rear. Jonathan and Elisha were doing more talking about technology than anything else along the way. Joam had never seen his brother talk to anyone so much other than himself. As he looked back at his brother, he smiled, turning to Wanyenyekevu. "I've never seen Jonathan so serious with anyone before, besides me." Wanyenyekevu replied, "I guess he found himself a little brother to take care of now." Joam smiled, "I guess so." 3 hours into their journey, they heard a large and loud explosion that shook the ground behind them. Turning around, the children started crying, for they could see that their father had destroyed the entire city as they saw buildings falling from the skies. Wanyenyekevu remembered Ibrahim's words, "Don't worry, I will do what Sabaoth asks of me and defeat the enemy." Standing there while the children of Ibrahim cried, Joam, Wanyenyekevu, and Jonathan didn't say a word until they were ready to move on. They had traveled for miles before anyone said anything. "He always said that he never wanted us to live like them," said Grace. "He even told me one time you can camouflage a lie, but it will always be a lie, and he wanted us to see the truth." They continued to talk amongst themselves before Jonathan realized they hadn't eaten all day. Less than a mile from Caballo Lake, Jonathan complains, "We have been traveling all day now and haven't eaten a thing." Wanyenyekevu's mind wasn't on what Jonathan had said, for he started thinking about home. "You know, I don't have any idea why people stay in the desert. Back home, there's plenty of trees, grass, rivers, and lakes, and there's always something you can eat, pretty much by walking down a trail." "You can find something to eat," Jonathan interrupted him. "Fuck that shit, man. I'm so fucking hungry now, right now. There's always wild rabbits or snakes in these parts if nothing else." Joam stopped his horse and pointed to the north. "Just under a mile is Caballo Lake. If it hasn't dried up, we can stop there and rest a bit, but your ass needs to stop being a rude crying ass, little bitch." "What happened to that Jonathan I saw back at the hotel? I want him, not this asshole." Wanyenyekevu smiled at Joam as the rest looked at them, confused. "Jonathan doesn't bother me. I see a great heart in his stupidity." Already embarrassed by his brother, Jonathan got offended by what Wanyenyekevu had said. "My brother can call me stupid, but I don't know you well enough for you to be calling me stupid, motherfucker." Wanyenyekevu climbed off his horse and winked his eye at Joam. "If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. You talk stupid with your foul mouth and walk around looking stupid, so you must be what? Stupid." Now furious, Jonathan jumps off his horse, charges at him with all his might, and throws a punch. Wanyenyekevu dodged his punch, and Jonathan fell to the ground. Wanyenyekevu taunted him, "Never use all your body weight to punch someone, and remember that there is something called gravity." Jumping up, Jonathan brushed himself and ran at Wanyenyekevu. Wanyenyekevu took one step to the right and pushed Jonathan lightly, and he fell flat on his face. "Your center of gravity is off." Jonathan grabs a stick lying on the ground. Shoulders should never tell a person when or where you will attack, Wanyenyekevu said. Jonathan was about to swing, right, now left, right, right. Wanyenyekevu started calling out which side he would attack from, and Jonathan stopped and switched, but he was still calling out his moves as he attacked. Jonathan threw the stick down. I'm not stupid, asshole. Wanyenyekevu laughs. No, you're dumb. They all laugh. Joan then took Jonathan by the shoulders. Grow up, little brother, is all I'm asking. We must take care of our new family, and you're always complaining, stop it. Pointing at Ibrahim's children. No, Ibrahim's family depends on us to take them somewhere safe. We have a responsibility to take care of them, like I have a responsibility to take care of you. Wanyenyekevu smiled and excused himself, saying, I will do the hunting this time. Why don't y'all finally go through the rest of the loot we got off the dead men, and see what we can use, cause the day 890 was something else. He paused for a second. How do the snakes taste out here? I'm still tired of rabbit. Walking toward the field, he continued, by the way, let's not use that cube thing. Let's take advantage of the lake and the cool wind out tonight. Joan pointed out to Wanyenyekevu by shouting, hey. Caballo Lake is a lake. Remember, we have to be extra careful now because animals need water too. We have snakes, scorpions, and things like that can kill us while we're sleeping. Digging through the bags, he continued, but Wanyenyekevu was long gone. Oh. But I see those men have air mattresses. We'll use these tonight. Joan said to himself before turning and yelling at Jonathan, hey Jonathan. Charge the B890 up. Ain't no telling if we'll need it again. Elijah, the eldest son of Ibrahim, approached Joan. We are not totally useless, let us help. Apologetically, Joan said, no, I'm sorry, that is not what it is. We're just so used to being the three of us, please join in as needed. As matter of fact, prep these air mattresses in a circle, 3 in the middle for your sisters and little Daniel, and leave the rest for us, on the outside of them. Wanyenyekevu travels a few yards and sees a wolf. Not knowing if it was Mlez or not, he hesitantly says, Mlez? The wolf looked at him and ran away. This is coyote territory. Wanyenyekevu said as he turned around, and there was Mlez. A visitor shall come to see you soon, don't be afraid, for he is a servant of Sabaoth, just as you are, not only a servant but a prophet. Therefore respect him, from Shika taught him, scratching the tiny hairs he was growing on his face. Wanyenyekevu said, I'm not afraid of no man, why would I be afraid? Wanyenyekevu blinked, and Mlez smiled and then disappeared, but he still heard his voice. I prepared a feast for you near the southernmost part of the lake. You'll see it by the big rocks. Wanyenyekevu walks to the edge of the lake, and there, before his eyes, are 4 large baskets. He looked inside of them, and indeed it was a feast. He carefully grabs the baskets and meets up with the rest of his party. Where in the hell did you get that shit from? Joan said in excitement. You need to be the only one hunting from now on. Wanyenyekevu laughs, the ancient Virigi, the messenger of Sabaoth, Mlez. Jonathan jokingly said, a virgin? Wanyenyekevu and Joan just looked at Jonathan. How many air mattresses do we have? Asked Wanyenyekevu, looking at Joan. I'll tell you about Mlez while we eat. Still frustrated, he hears someone say, 8, we have 8 air mattresses. It was Jonathan sarcastically speaking. Wanyenyekevu laughed. Lie them down on the ground, and let's start blowing them up, we need all of them. Jonathan ran and grabbed one from the circle. Who's stupid? No, who's dumb now? Seriously. Blow them up. You still in ancient times, I see. Grabbing another small stainless steel square frame, he pushed a black button. A twin-sized mattress resembled a sleeping bag, quietly floating 3 feet above the ground. Wanyenyekevu started to speak, but Jonathan said, we know. Sabaoth is able. Jonathan hands the other square to Wanyenyekevu, pointing to the buttons. These colors represent the size you want. Black is twin, blue is full, pink is queen, and red is king size. Then he flipped it over. This is for, I guess you might say, supersize or a California king size. Wanyenyekevu took the device, black is supersize. Pushing the black button. No, black is twin, supersize is the only button on the bottom. Joan said, but it was too late. Wanyenyekevu had released the device, and a bed appeared. He laughed, goodness. Joan took the first mattress and inflated it, then gave it to Joy. Here you go. Pick the size you want for you, and little Daniel can share one. They chose the twin-size mattresses that Wanyenyekevu had accidentally inflated as their table. They surrounded it and ate. The children of Ibrahim looked at each other with a puzzled look on their faces, for they didn't see anything familiar in the baskets, and the eldest brother spoke up. The only thing we recognize is the silverware. What is this? Jonathan and Joam excitedly jumped up as Joam said, What is it? It's authentic food, not that paste shit you guys serve. Filling up his plate as he called out the meal, You got your mashed potatoes with gravy sauce? Licking his fingers from the sauce that dripped onto his fingers, he continued, You got roasted chicken with potatoes, carrots, and peas and corn on the cob with butter. Oh boy, I haven't seen or tasted a meal like this since I was. Joam started to speak, but tears rushed from his eyes. This is, taking a deep breath. This is our last meal we had as a family, and it tastes just like our mother's cooking. Jonathan couldn't remember, but he started crying as well. Joam stopped crying, but the tears continued to flow from his eyes. There's no way, I can't see any possible. With it you could have gotten a meal like this in the middle of the desert? Wanyenyekevu was speechless at first, for he did not know that the meal was crucial to the brothers. I didn't know that. But whatever Sabaoth has for us, we must do. You were just strangers to me, Anakotas, at that, and me being a lone Wakatilian. And now we all eat with Compaitans. But we are just humans, and we must stop separating ourselves and serve Sabaoth. It reminds me of a prophet in Acts. Joam interrupted, What's Acts? A city? Wanyenyekevu said, No, it's a book in the Torah, wiping the tears from his eyes. Anyway, this book is about a man named Saul, who is fighting a battle between his brothers, about who is righteous and who is not because of how they were born. Back then, it was between Jews and Gentiles. Now, it's us. I am convinced. We are to journey together, we are brothers and sisters and truly a family in Sabaoth. Having a lump in his throat, he too blows out a hard breath, looks at everyone, and briefly explains to them about Yael, his guardian, Emilisi, the ancient Virigi, and Shika, the Redeemer, and the many things that have been happening to them, and how the meeting each other was not mere coincidence. He briefly explained the Torah and quickly said, while looking at Joam and Jonathan, You know, we got to start all over again because of our new family. Elijah insisted they didn't, but Joam and Jonathan looked at him. No, let's start from the beginning.